Hello, 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 and welcome to yet another episode of The Conversation Capital with myself, Ursula Mariani, and Ubonga Bweto, the voice of reason, and Given Masilela. Hey, Tawala, guys.
Hi, how's it? Hey, I think Ursula these days is like, how could I possibly catch them off guard?
Also, she's doing the 18 Moyeni side, and the 8 Hola is not how they greet in the Val. So I don't know how the two.
When you think you're more Val than me, that's the problem here. You always think you are the ambassador of Val between me and you. How are you doing?
I'm good, sis. How are you?
I'm awesome. Give, how are you doing?
I'm super, hey?
That is awesome. So today, we are going to appeal to what our audience likes. Dabatsa. Mojolo.
A little step further.
In fact, we're taking it a step further all the way into Dabatsa marriage.
Yeah.
Marriage contracts. South Africa is complicated. You've got marriage, customary marriage. You've got civil marriage. Then there's the prenup and there's the postnup and da-da-da-da-da-da. And many things that most people don't understand until it's too late and somebody's leaving with half your things.
Yep.
And so we've invited a lawyer in to come discuss, and probably one of the best dressed lawyers I've seen.
Absolutely.
Right? Is the camera on her yet?
Yes.
I hope it is.
When people say you're standing on business.
Standing on business, darlings. Hello.
Thank you. Hi, how are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you so much for coming through. You look stunning.
Thank you.
Are we making you shy?
You are making
I'm
me shy.
so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming through. Maybe let's just start with who you are. If you could just walk us through what is it that you do.
Okay. I am a co-founder and a director of Mahamatamnisi Attorneys. So I'm an attorney by profession, and I'm a notary. So I am also a businesswoman. And this is on the professional side.
Yes.
Do you want the personal side as well?
Should
we? Okay, I'm a daughter.
Talking about
All right. We can get there too. I'm a daughter. I am a sister. I'm a big sister. I am a friend. I'm a partner.
Okay.
So that's and I'm a rakhadi. I'm a rakhadi to my brother's kids.
Oh,
Yes.
Rakhadi.
Yeah,
Okay.
Rakhadi.
Rakhadis have a bad rep, but we trust you've got a good one.
I'm a good one. I'm a good one.
And so, maybe let's get straight into it around, I think for me, grassroots question would be, what's the difference between customary and civil marriage?
Civil marriage is when you. So I'm just going to. I'm not going to go very deep, the sections and all of those.
No.
So civil marriage is when you go to Home Affairs and go sign. So that is a civil marriage. Customary marriage is the lobola route. So it also just depends. Mapedi versus Mavenda versus, there is similarities. And for the most part, there's a lot of things that I like. But a lot of times then there is the delegation that goes, they go there and they request, it can be, it depends actually. It does depend. But ultimately there is the requesting of Makoti, and then there is also the lobola, the bride price that is paid. And there is the celebration or the negotiations, then the celebration. So I think ultimately most of the cultures have that.
Yes.
So Babang, they have Dukubo, other people have, so it's just different things, but ultimately it's that.
So if that process happens and you guys have not signed, these are rumors that we hear. I just want you, Mythbusters.
Okay.
True or false? Is it true that the process happens, you guys didn't sign a prenup because you thought you only need to sign a prenup, civil marriage when you go to Home Affairs? But if that process happens, it means that you're automatically married in community.
You are married in community or property.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've had so many debates about this, casually.
Yes.
People will tell you, no, it's not immediate in community property. What?
When you go to Home Affairs and you don't state or bring a prenuptial contract to Home Affairs, You are married in community.
You married in community or property. So what I always tell my clients is they'll be on some, I'm not sure how I'm married. I mean, if you didn't draft anything with an attorney or a notary, you don't remember yourself executing any document, then you are married in community or property.
So the automatic is in community.
That is the default in South Africa. That is the default. So you don't have to include it. It's automatically included.
Yes. Okay.
Why aren't we taught this in school? I mean, this is like
people are getting married at 18. This should
exactly.
be in LO class.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Then let's talk about what does it mean to be married in community of property.
Being married in community or property just means that we share everything in equal parts. So a lot of times, there's this analogy where if there's a dining room set, there's a table and then there's the chairs. So somebody would think that one would own the chairs and one would own the table. That's not how it goes. So it just means that the spouses will each own half share of that table and half share of each chair. So everything that is within the community of property, we own in equal shares.
But explain in the sense that, okay, now kinna o bangteta mahadi. And then, life goes on, things are great. And let's say I come in with 2 properties. My partner comes in with 5 properties. And then together we start adding to the list, right? What does this mean? Does that mean if divorce happens, God forbid, we're splitting the 2 properties I came in with and the 5 he came in with and the things we accumulated together, or we start splitting from when we started living together?
So in community of property is everything. It's the assets and the liabilities, the future, the past and the present, and sometimes even the future.
Sometimes even the future.
Yes, it depends. Yes. So everything, whatever
Meaning
you
that
came
if my
in
parents left me a home, Leona
is in there.
You're missing the bigger one. Are really the liabilities? Meaning, if you're busy paying jet, we split jet in half. When you pay 50 linak, but 50 jet, yeah, how?
So dikoloto everything.
Dikoloto and everything that is in community of property. What is mine is yours, painful or nice. We sharing that.
Who do you suggest gets married in community?
That's a very good question.
Yeah,
that is a very
in your
good
professional
question.
opinion, do you say "Halirata na hulu"? What's your opinion?
My parents. So my parents were married in community of property. My dad passed away a couple of years back, and he drafted a will. It was not signed, and he passed away without a will. So that worked out for them. My dad was a teacher for the longest time. My mom didn't work. So I cannot imagine a situation between my mom and my dad where there was
A prenup.
There was a prenup where it is out of community or property and there's no accrual. So I can't imagine now my dad going and my mom having nothing. So that's about what I can think about. But right now in this generation where we are at this age, I don't see it.
You don't see it. You can't paint a scenario where it's a good idea.
Where it's like the best
Can
thing.
I try a scenario?
Yeah, let's try it.
It's a weird scenario to paint, but it does happen. What happens if you have one of the partners? And I want to say the man here, but I also want to, do equal representation. So let's say one of the partners, very well learned, high paying job, very high paying job. And then they go and marry someone who's coming from, I don't necessarily want to say nothing, but they're not moneyed, right? And I'm using that particular situation also particularly because it creates a power dynamic, right? Would that type of a situation be more appropriate for an accrual, or wouldn't it be for the sake of the default? Because in the accrual, we have to decide what happens, but I'm not educated enough to sit at that table and give myself a good deal.
I can see it there. It can happen.
But then you'd have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
I need this one.
And
because
also,
it sort of babies you, right? It's the government making the decision that...
True. And also we are already thinking that this person who is, economically disadvantaged is going to be like that in the next 20 years, in the next 30 years.
Fair point.
Yes. So the
Fair
thing about
point.
an antenuptial contract, or I mean the marital regime, it's not, you know, as much as we see people trying to change it, it's not as easy to change. It's not very easy to change. So what is today is not necessarily what is going to be in 10 years, in 40 years, in, because it is still going to be that same document that you signed 50 years ago. So that person could have popped.
So, for those who do not know, there's out of community of property with accrual and without accrual.
Yes.
Can we break those down?
Yeah.
Okay. So there is the in community of property, which is the default. So you don't need to include it. It's included if not excluded.
Yeah.
So on the other side, we have out of community of property. So out of community of property, there's two. If you don't exclude accrual, then you are including it. So the default, as far as out of community of property is concerned, is the inclusion of the accrual. So
What's
in the
accrual?
document, so accrual basically is just gains. It's just the additions.
Yeah, so things you
the
gather.
growth.
Or things you got together.
You get together.
No.
Okay, great. Because that's what we're thinking.
Yeah.
So it's good that we're here.
It's good that we're here. So in community of property, we said you're owning everything. This is now the assets and the liabilities. We are together here. We own the teaspoon in half shares, in the house in half shares, the same way. In out of community of property, with accrual. So with accrual, this means that from here on, so this is what you were talking about, that if you're bringing this, you're bringing that and the other one. So it means from here on, whatever growth we get together, that is if we don't exclude. So you still, in the antenuptial contract, you can still exclude other assets. So whatever growth then you get together, then you get to share at the end of the marriage. At the end of the marriage, this is a death or divorce. So accrual just means the growth
The growth that we got together
that we got together
while married should be
married.
shared.
Yes.
And importantly, you can still add it in the exclusions.
You can still exclude it.
It's
You
a
can-
live thing.
No, you don't keep on.
Oh, you don't?
No,
the
you don't
Okay.
keep on changing. So as we get married today, me and my spouse, we sit down. What are we excluding? What are we including in this accrual? What are we going to share at the end of, what growth are we? So some people still put there. So there's what we call the commencement value and the end value. So the commencement value is, how do we start? How much do you have when we start? Okay. So some people still say 0. So you can declare your commencement value at 0. So which means that then you are going to share everything.
Yeah.
Because what we take the end value and then we minus the commencement value. So we also add, inflation there as well. So let's say I started at 10 and I now at the end of it, I have 20. And then my spouse has still 10. So it's going to be 0 for my spouse and then it's going to be 10 for me because now I have 20. So 20 minus 10 is 10. So what we do is then we slash that in half and then I give that to my spouse.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's not 50. It's not supposed to be. It's not just. It can be 80-20. You can decide in the antenuptial contract that at the end of it, our accrual, how we're sharing it is 80-20. So a lot of people just think it has to be 50-50. It doesn't have to be 50-50. So your antenuptial contract, it regulates the financial relationship between spouses. So we can decide. We can decide that at the end of it, whoever has a bigger estate then gives the other person 20%. The default, we can say it's 50%, but you can still play around with the numbers.
But
That's
it
so
must be at the beginning of the contract.
Yes. Hence the
Okay.
commencement. The commencement, yes. So
Value.
whatever then you exclude. So there are other things that legally they are excluded. The inheritance, the donations, and the other things. There are a few things. The damages that are, even if you don't exclude them, they are excluded. But if it's assets and you don't exclude them, it means you're including them.
Okay. So anything that is not stated to be excluded is automatically included.
Correct.
So one must be very wary that if you don't, distinctly say this is excluded, then it's included.
Yes.
What I want to know is, I get into the marriage, I've got maybe 2 properties, both of them are halfway through bond. at which point do you declare this as something that you have? Because you don't really have it, it belongs to the bank. Do you get what I'm asking?
But it's a liability, so you do have it.
But what is it that we share then at the end? Do you understand my question? Things like properties that aren't fully paid off, are they included as something that you own?
They do form part of your estate. And I think also to just clarify, in community of property, we share on the assets and the liabilities. Out of community of property, we share only on the good things. So only on the assets. So that's why then how. So if I come in, my commencement value is 20, and at the end of it, my end value is 10. So which means that I'm worse off.
Yes.
So we're just going to say 0. We're not talking negative. So we saying you are at 0 there.
Okay, so if somebody is broker, then when they first met you, they owe you nothing.
If they are broke, if they are broker at the end, then pretty much you probably owe them.
Oh.
Yes.
This is interesting.
Very interesting. But one thing I enjoy when I learn about our legal stuff is that South Africa is very robust legally. Sure.
Yeah, that's true.
And many layers. What I want to know is, I've heard a lot of like people now like moving to the space of like hiding their money in trusts. Hiding is a bad word.
Yeah.
Protecting their money.
Yeah.
And protecting their assets in trust. How does that work?
So I always say that for the most of us in this generation, around about this age, in the 30s, late 30s, most of us we are wealth creators. So a lot of us don't come with anything from previous generations. So there's been a lot of talks about generational wealth. So actually I was, I used to be in banking. So I used to be part of a team that advised high net worth clients. So there we would help them, would advise them around legacy planning, wealth planning, and moving assets from one generation to another one. So a lot of us at this age, we just creating, but we don't quite have a plan of moving it from this generation to another one. So things like your will and your trust, those are the things that help you move assets from this generation, or move that wealth that we are creating from this generation to another generation. So a trust helps you to do it, to do the movement while you are alive. You don't have to wait until death. So right now you can move, if you have an asset, let's say you have a house, and you know that I want my house to move into another generation. I'm not going to sell it at any point. So I want this one. I want my kids to have it and my kids' and, to benefit from it. So what you can do using a trust is that you create a trust and you move that asset from your own name into the trust. So they are, their costs, their transfer costs, because now we are changing owners, remember?
Yeah.
So
the trust owns
then the trust then owns it. But ultimately, you're still going to pay something when you're dead, or somebody's going to pay something when you're dead. So if you want to do it now, then a trust is the best way to go about it. Then you move your stuff and they are fully in there, and then you can decide who the beneficiaries are. So a lot of people are already then. So also another thing about trust is that if I become insolvent and I have, I don't have anything, remember now the trust owns those things.
Okay.
So you cannot now go to a different owner, which is now the trust. So then it offers a lot of protection.
Can I be a beneficiary of a trust I start myself?
Yes, correct.
Ah, okay. So then that can never be taken away from you. Well, taken away from
the trust.
Yes. It can never be taken away, as in.
So let's say dikolotos are overwhelming in business, but I've got my certain things in trust.
Yeah.
And I'm a beneficiary of that trust. The banks can't come and say, unlock what's in the trust.
Yes, as a general rule. So as a general rule.
There's
always just kind of loopholes here.
It's kind of like with businesses, as far as I understand. If whatever you do to the business technically shouldn't affect you as a separate entity, but if they can prove that you are so reckless, you were actually quite reckless, they can come and demand some of the. Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah, that is, I think it's called piercing the corporate veil or something like that. So they can come for you
for your personal.
for your personal. If there is gross misconduct and
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, person A, person B actually, I still want to finish off this trusting. Sorry. When somebody's a beneficiary of a trust, I inherit family trust. Mom and dad leave me something in a trust, and we're beneficiaries of this trust. What happens when, as siblings, right? Maybe we're moving away from marriage contracts right now. We're siblings. There's 5 of us. We're all beneficiaries of a trust. Can we sell the house? What happens? What does it mean to say it almost pushes the wealth into further generations? Does it mean that it needs to stay an asset that we can't sell? What does that mean?
So a trust requires a donor or the person who is then in charge of the, so in many cases, this is somebody who is donating something to a trust or selling something to a trust.
Yes.
Then they are trustees.
Yes.
So trustees are like the, the board members, so to speak, of that. So they are in charge of the decisions of that, what is happening and what is good for the beneficiaries. So, and then they are beneficiaries. So some of the beneficiaries can be the trustees or, or nothing. Or you can have the trustees who are not even the beneficiaries. Yes. So the people who decide, because then there is the intention of the trust. Why are we creating this trust, and does it make sense to still keep that?
Follow like
so that
an MOU type of, okay.
Yeah. So the trustees are the ones who decide. Who sit and decide, is it viable to still keep? So sometimes the intention of the donor is to make sure that maybe it reaches generation number 100. Yes. But sometimes let's say civilization happens and that house is in Pitsonervat or somewhere, and the donor thought, there's a school here, we can rent this out, it works out, it will, but now in time, it doesn't work out. So the trustees can sit down and say that, although the intention was this, it's not viable anymore. Then you can sell it and then maybe buy something else, or even distribute to the beneficiaries. So there's also, just not to be too technical, there's also the capital beneficiaries and there's the income beneficiaries. So they're the beneficiaries who can benefit from the assets, and then there are those who can get money from the trust. So you can be an income beneficiary and not a capital beneficiary, or you can be both, or you can be one or the other, or you can be both.
Meaning that you've got a share of the property or you've got a share of money.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So for an example, if I have kids and I decide I create a trust, and I have kids, I have my mom, and so the intention would be that my mom can enjoy the benefit of that house, but as far as the money is concerned, then the kids can get money maybe for schooling, for this or for that, but my mom can live in there, but not so much now share in the money. Yes,
sure. That's so interesting.
What happens if trustees, everyone passes away and there's beneficiaries left?
So there's the trust will say what is the minimum number of trustees. So how many do we need to have at any given time? Okay. So if as the people are dying, we are appointing more, we are adding. So it's not stagnant. We're not going to leave it as it was when it was created. So we can keep on adding, and other people can resign within the trustees, within the trust, and even the beneficiaries as well. So when they see that we are falling below the number, that maybe clause 4.2 says that we need to have 4 trustees, but now there is 2 trustees, so we need to add on that.
And we need to appoint. So you go back to the lawyers and be like,
yes, and then they will assist you with that, and then it's an application with the master. It's a form basically that you fill in, and then and then that is
such
updated.
An interesting conversation, I must be honest, because I've never really understood how trusts work. Yeah.
And earlier on, we almost quickly went past this, but I just want us to go back to it. People can change their regime.
They can. They can.
So you can move from out of in community to out of community.
Correct. Yes. But it's not easy, because you need to give reasons why you are changing, and then you also you need to give notice to anybody that you owe that this is not going to affect them in negatively. So they need to we need to file those papers, we need to file their consent as well. So
this is what the interesting question there, this would be now your post-nuptial contract. to change regimes means that you would now, let's say if you move from in community to, is that a post-nuptial? What is that?
You are changing.
You're changing your
altogether. It's a
regime.
change of marital regime.
Okay.
So in other words, you're divorcing and remarrying. Not
Not
really.
that. Not that.
Not
And
really.
remember, if you're married in community property, you don't have an antenuptial contract.
Yes, but I'm saying
Yes.
now if you get a post-nuptial contract, does that now change your regime automatically or?
So it's a court application. It's a whole court application. So you don't just sit and apply to to the deeds office and say this is what I'm doing. So what it is a whole entire application. So that's why it's just named a change of marital regime.
Okay.
Yes. So it's not just a contract that you draft and then a notary
okay.
stamps it for you and then we are good to go. So you need to go to court and then there must be you must
And
say why we're trying
the
to
court
do that.
is the one who'll give final approval.
Yes.
Based
They
must be
can
a court-
decline.
also based on
They
the
can
fact
decline.
that okay, wow,
Yeah, the court can
they
decline.
can decline.
Yes. You know, this reminds me of the process where someone has passed on without a will or something. I'm not sure if I'm correct. You'll correct me, obviously. But there has to be, things have to be publicized in the papers to say you don't owe anyone or anything. That reminds me of that process. You have to wait to make sure no debtors are coming forth to say we have a claim in this estate.
Yes. You need to advertise. So it needs to be in the public. People need to know that somebody who owed me is dead. Yeah, we need to know that people know.
And then in the process, Ursula, I think you had something.
no.
Okay. In the process where here's a person, they were once married, right? In community of property. They have kids. Ne? So here's a couple in community of property living together. They have kids. Now, one partner passes away. Ne? So the house, let's just say there was nothing said. Ne? Let's just simplify it. Nothing was said with the house. It's just assumed the house now belongs to the husband or the wife. This person now remarries. Ne? So this person also dies. The kids
I feel like
now.
we need a whole diagram for this question.
Yeah, no,
like, can somebody
definitely.
scribble something down?
Definitely.
So essentially,
Let's
Okay.
say person A, B,
Yeah,
C.
yeah.
okay,
yeah.
listen. Okay, let me do this. Ntabi Litabo, they get married. Ntabi saying Tabo get married. Ntabi saying passes on. Her and Tabo had babies. So Ntabi saying has passed on. Tabo remarries, ne, with these kids. So now there's a stepmother involved. Tabo also dies. Stepmother's left with Tabo and Tabi's baby. Tabo and Tabi's babies, right? So now what
Lerato
happens?
is left with the babies.
Yes. Now, what happens where in situations, I've seen this so many times and we've all seen this so many times, where the kids are kicked out. What went wrong? What is happening? Are there legal stuff involved? What did their parents not do? Like, what is it?
Kids should not be kicked out because so now this second marriage that happens is also in community property. Okay. So remember, then we are owning things in half shares. So I'm assuming that now the last parent, the last biological parent, passes away without a will. So it's intestate. So what happens there is that automatically now the new spouse, Lerato now has the 50%, but the other 50%. The kids.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's
They
just
should not be
really
kicked out.
no one
But let's say
advocating
they're
for
not
the kids.
under 18. Give bana baba holo. This is their family home. Let's say banal 25 and 30. I think that's more usually the circumstance or the situation.
Sometimes
What happens?
younger.
What happens then?
Even then.
Nah, they
Even
should
then,
have.
They should, yes.
Oh
But
yes,
there's-
that's
so
actually
unless
a very good question, because there are people who believe that as soon as a kid is above 18, it no longer applies to them.
No,
It does.
it does. It does.
Because at the end of the day, that's Tabo and Ntabi's house, and Tabo and Ntabi are the parents.
and the parents, yes.
What happens in the situation where this is really like doing Tabo and Tabi? But okay, Tabo and Tabi are gone, Lerato's there, and the kids say, Lerato, go.
Lerato is married.
Yeah,
In community
Lerato is
property.
married to Tabo.
Lerato is
Tabo
legally
passes
there.
away. She's legally there.
Yeah, she's legally
And
there.
now the kids are like, nope, this was my mom's home. You're not going to come in Kadi last minute.
Yes, the person who made this
Made
home,
this home. You know, and you were there as a kid. Maybe you saw your mom paying more than your dad. You know, so you think, no, there's no way this belongs to you, Lerato.
You'll need to buy Lerato out.
Yeah.
So if you have money to buy this person out, you can.
Okay.
So in other words, Lerato is entitled.
Yes.
And Lerato can go
By
to court
virtue of
and stand
marriage.
her ground.
Unless
Just
it was
50
a
high.
contract,
Unless
there was a prenup
unless
that said the house is not yours, my love. Even when I die, the house is not yours. This house belongs to my late wife and Tabi and the kids.
And you see, it goes back to that conversation that we had about legacy planning and about wealth planning, that a lot of us are just doing things, but there's so many tools around, that we can use. So in many cases, we just talk about the antenuptial contract, but there is a will and then there's a trust. So even if you married out of commune to a property without accrual, there's still ways of benefiting each other. So you can still say we have our individual estates, but in the will, I can give you my estate, or I can give you some of my estate. I can give. So these are the things that are available to us, but we don't quite use them because we leave our kids in mess.
Yes, and because there's always lack of transparency around conversations of money. And that's the mess then that starts, because there's a difficulty while you're alive to say, I actually don't think you deserve half.
Yeah.
I think you deserve maybe 20%. And that conversation is so difficult to have sometimes that it's never had. And then it leaves the mess of, people just passing away and, Batla Ditaba for those that are alive.
And we need to start having those conversations. One of the reasons that my partner and I, my business partner and I left the bank, we advised the high net worth clients, and then she advised the ultra high net worth clients in the bank. And we told them all these things. We were telling them, this is what you do, and this is how you do with this, and this is how you move this, and you move it around. But for the most part, those clients were the opposite of you. They were not young, they were not black, they were not female. So we, that's how Mahamata Mnisi was born. We're like, actually, who's talking to our people? Because these conversations are not being had. So we are the lawyers with the financial background. So we encourage these conversations that let's talk about these things. You don't have to get it right instantly, but have the information. Even if you decide, no, I'm not going to do this and this and that, but at least have the information. Absolutely. But a lot of people just don't even want to. We had a ladies branch thing, and we're telling the ladies that when we started the business, it was mostly to talk to our peers, the females, but we're seeing more of their husbands more than we're seeing the wives. They are coming and they are disinheriting their wives. They are talking about kids from somewhere that the wife doesn't know about, and then now when the wife comes in, they're like, how
do I maneuver this problem? Yeah.
And then husbands those stories.
How do I maneuver this mess?
I know somebody in the comments is gonna say, what about men raising kids that are not theirs?
Actually,
for everybody, these secrets, family secrets are killing us. What happens? Couple is married in community, beautiful 3 kids, picture perfect family. Mom passes away. Everybody's heartbroken. And as life happens, father learns that 2 of the 3 are not his. Who gets what? Do kids still get something? Do they get only the 50% of the mom? What happens in a messy situation when somebody's passed away and it turns out this is messier than we thought?
You see, now we need a diagram.
Yeah, I also think now we need a diagram. But then the kids would still, they'll have a part. They'll have a percentage, but only from the mom's half. From the mom's half, yes. So they don't get half of what or let's say both parents pass away at the same time, and one child proves to say, but you guys aren't my father's kids.
So then that person will, the one who is parented by both people who passed away would benefit from both estates, versus now the other ones would only just benefit from the one estate where they are rightfully parented.
Am I correct in saying a lot of this is also has like an asterisk in the sense that the courts may decide differently based on the unique circumstances of your case, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, okay.
That is correct, yes.
And then, is it true? We hear this so much. Is it true?
Bring it, Bonga. Bonga has the story.
No, this one is quite popular, so people will know. Is it true that So for example, husband married, picture perfect family. Then he has another child, outside, and then no one had an idea. But this person can prove dependency. They can claim on the estate.
Not so much the estate. So who are we claiming for? Are we claiming for
the child,
for the child, and not the. So the child has a right.
The child has a
and
then the
right.
partner.
The partner. So this is, I think, what you're talking about is on the pension.
Yes.
You know, because there is a section in the Pensions Act that talks about.
That's a good question. Yeah. Can you first explain the difference between pension and estate? Because everybody understands those as the same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Pensions don't form part of the estate. They go to the beneficiaries directly, so they bypass the estate.
So they're not covered in the pension is not covered in the will.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it doesn't go in the will. There is a beneficiary form that you say, these are my beneficiaries, and the people that are,
and that's it. It goes straight to the beneficiary.
It goes straight to that. And then the estate. In the estate, there is a lot of things that you still need to pay for. You might be estate duty, executors' fees, and maybe the liabilities of that estate before we can look at who gets to benefit. Unlike the pension. So the pension, you get it comes to you. But in the estate, we first need to look at, firstly, how the person married, and then what are the liabilities of the estate. So it doesn't matter if I think my estate is 2 million and I have 2 kids, I say 1 million goes to baby A and the other million goes to baby B. With intentions as good as that, it's not going to be that. We're still going to look at what needs to be paid first. Yes.
So the child has a right, of course. Ne?
Yes.
And then the partner, the parallel partner, what are their
Yeah,
rights?
I'm a side chick. Every month I get 20K from my boo. My boo passes away. Can I prove that?
I get it now that I'm cash. Because people will be claiming
like a paper trail. But what happens in the case that there is a paper trail?
You can. Yeah.
You can actually,
this is why I say give your side chick a yoko and call them a guest house.
But isn't that still a paper? Wait. Why are they side chicks?
I'm just saying, hypothetical.
Nessa watches this and you better be careful. Okay.
Isn't
that still a paper trail of sorts?
Guest house.
I mean, it is.
Guest house.
It is paper trail. Yeah.
This is where the asterisk you are speaking about comes in.
That's
and South African law.
Terms and conditions apply. Yeah.
What are some of the odd cases that you found that were a bit really tricky to navigate? How do we?
So I think just maybe to elaborate on the asterisks, we spoke about the incommutual property, the fact that we share things in half shares, that whatever is yours, be it liabilities, be it assets we own together. So the courts are not heartless. So what happens in a situation where they find out that one of the spouses or one of the parties to the marriage was not contributing to the marriage as they should, you can apply for asset forfeiture.
Okay.
So which just means that then you're taking away that 50% that is rightfully. So it's not an automatic right, but you can apply to it. So you can apply for it at court. Then somebody doesn't get to get their 50% despite them being married in commutual property. So that is that. And also even on the other end, so there's also.
Wait, so what would you have to prove in court?
You have to prove that there should be non-contribution, but not only just there must also be what do you call it? That somebody acted maliciously. So very quickly, a case that somebody got their pension money and then they squandered it, and then the lady was taking care of the kids, was paying bond, was paying school fees, was paying for groceries, and the husband was not earning very well, but it was fine. That's okay. You marry who you marry. But now when he had the opportunity to actually add to the communal property, he came back after 3 months.
Then you can prove
then you can prove that, yes.
Can you
Our educators, health practitioners, I hope you're listening.
because keep on about the
Hey,
patient.
bang, we're advantage, but anyway,
Yeah.
So
if
not
you can,
start things.
yeah, if you can prove that, and then yes, that there would be an undue benefit.
Yeah.
Yes, in now sharing your things when they had an opportunity to share and they didn't. They used it to, not to the benefit of the joint estate.
So this is so interesting. One of the things that we were talking about, the ability to be transparent and open. I remember there was another podcast that very popular lawyer, the white man. I don't know if you guys know. You definitely know who I'm talking about. I just don't know his name. And he said something, and I don't forget it. He said that with the cases that he's had where he has to draw up marriage contracts, the couples that are transparent, very frank about money, usually don't come back for a divorce. And he was like, the ones that have this very vague approach, and the other one comes to me by themselves, and the other one comes by themselves, and I can see that there's
South African.
No, an American white guy. I think
Diary of a CEO.
He was on Diary of a CEO.
I see the
but
guy.
where he was
I see the
popularized was Soft White Underbelly.
A very
podcast-
emotional guy.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I
yeah.
see
The
him.
guy who
I
he
see
talks
him.
by himself. On Soft White Underbelly, he's talking by himself.
Yeah, I see him.
He's a divorce lawyer, I think, by
Yes,
profession.
yes.
And I remember when he said that, the penny dropped, because he's like, you're already showing that there's cracks
Yeah.
in the communication of this. You guys shouldn't be getting married.
Yeah.
If you can't have
In
a
the first
conversation that,
place.
babe, right now, I don't think you deserve half my house. I came here with the house. You came here with nothing. If you can't have that conversation without it ruining the relationship, then you're actually not ready to get married at all.
Yeah.
Which
that's
is
true.
scary, because I think that's the truth of many relationships.
Of many relationships. There's also one where, there's, as far as wills are concerned, you can have a single will or a joint will. So I usually advise single wills. Sit down, decide what we're going to do. I mean, they can speak to each other, even if you're married. It doesn't have to be in one document that you are. So there's a lady who is very in love. And so I'm like, what are we trying to achieve? What is your situation? Do you have anybody else that you need to take care of? I was like, no, I'm married now. I'll do whatever baby wants to do. I was like, okay, baby. And just to cut the story short, we draft. This lady says, now my things are going to my husband and the husband's kid that the husband came with, and the husband doesn't say, oh yeah, no, my things will go to to a trust that will benefit the kid and my wife. And I'm like, oh, okay, are we comfortable there? They are yes, and then they come in, they sign it, they sign the will, they leave. As they leave, they came lunchtime, so I was still at the bank. They came lunchtime after. Immediately when they're in the car, calls me, Lohu, I need to see you. When are you available? What is your next available slot? I'm like, how urgent is it? I mean, you can come back. He actually came back. He's like, I need a will. I need to draft a will. There are other kids. There is, these other people that I need to benefit. So the thing about a will is that the newest one is the valid one.
Oh, you're looking at me.
The newest one is the valid one. So I'm just reminded of this when you're talking about the couple who's not able to talk about money, who's not able to say, you know what, you bring more kids than me, maybe I should do that. Or I have a mom at home, I know I'm married now, but I might need to, So that lady was just very much about, oh no, I'm married now. I am. I'm like, but yeah, there are people.
So your partner can go behind your back and do things that you don't know.
Yes.
Then what's the point of us going together if each man to himself, God for us all?
I get it. This is where the benefit of a marrying in community comes in. Because that one, you can't change it unless you call me.
Oh.
We need to both be there. You can't change this regime without me.
Yeah, but you can still benefit somebody else. Half your estate.
Yes.
So you can say we married out of communal property, so my 50% is going somewhere else, whatever it is, however much it is, at 50%.
And
so it doesn't necessarily always have to go to the spouse.
And I will find out the day you pass out.
Pretty much.
Also, even if you're in community or property, but I can add somebody else to say, when I pass away, you're getting nothing. My side chick is getting everything.
Yeah.
I can put that in the will.
You can get your half, but the other half, this is where it's going.
Yes, you can get your 50% that you're
Or as long as you have your 50%.
Yes.
The other one can be
I
divided.
never considered that.
Yeah. So you can.
Because the other one, you decide what you do with it.
Yes.
So you must be conflicted a lot as a lawyer morally. Because then you can see somebody on the other side is being done in.
And you can't call the wife and be like, hey,
Now, personally, I wouldn't be conflicted at all.
But it's just painful to watch because, I mean, we live in a very patriarchal society. So that's why it's just sad when you see all these things that are happening and our people, I mean, our peers, the girls are not the ones who are coming. Oh my God. I can't tell you, but you need to do what works for you. So ultimately, it shouldn't be dependent on the other person. Yeah. So if you have other people that you love, that you feel that if you still want to benefit your husband who's not benefiting you, that's still fine. But you need to want to do it.
How does a woman protect her estate? I might be using the word wrong. We're just using estate to mean assets and everything you own. Yeah. But now I'm seeing that's not what how does one protect their things from a side chick? And my child, I'm driving with my husband. Unfortunately, we get involved in a car accident. We both pass away. How do I ensure that everything goes to my children? And is indeed children's...
So firstly, it's very important how you get married. Because no other document is going to change your marital regime. So not a trust, not a will. So a will and a trust, I would say. So those are the answers.
A will and a trust is what's going to...
A will and a trust is what is going to,
So do this or do this?
Or do both, please.
Okay.
Both, yes.
But you don't know what his will says at the end of the day.
Yes. But remember, if you are married out of community or property, your things are your things. Then you can talk about them and you can decide how they go. Because if you are married out of community or property, you don't have a will and you pass away without a will, then he is going to... The law of intestate is going to step in, and then he's going to then get his share, and it might go to the side chicks and through the routes you don't want it to go.
I remember this other lady telling me a story, and I found it very interesting. She said to me, the side chicks came to claim in numbers when her husband passed away, and she said so they had to dissolve so many things. Eventually, the lawyer sort of like helped them hide a bit of the money. She was private story, but she was explaining that they sort of like tried to hide some of the properties and stuff that they had together as husband and wife, and they managed with some, but they didn't manage with all of it. And to this man had so many side chicks to the point where some side chicks came forward. She says over 5 children came on the funeral day that she didn't know about. She says some side chicks came forward to say, I'm not going to fight you for money because he bought me 2 properties while he was alive, so it's fine.
Sure.
I just want you to know that the child exists. Sure. Like that's how much this man was like taking care of his sides and and then the other sides that did have their own little apartment or house that they were bought were still greedy and still wanted a share of the bigger estate, right? And so how does somebody protect themselves from something like that?
If it's his, but you're protecting yourself with his money.
No, Kiaruna really too. We're married in community of property. We make a decision that I'm going to be the one behind the scenes. You move forward with career. I'll take care of the household. I'll take care of everything. Because she was like, and I understand this concept that people will want to nullify the role of a housewife. But you are able to achieve certain things because I exist. Yeah. Because you don't have to worry about anything else. You never have to worry about picking up the kids from practice. You never have to worry about ironing your shirts or whatever. I take care of you. Everything, you can succeed in the workplace. And that's sort of a good relationship. It's just that relationship is so taken advantage of that one is left. And then in this day and age, it's almost like you were an idiot. Why didn't you grow your own career? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And you're like, but this was a sacrifice we made as a family. We decided as a family that I'm going to take the back seat for you to, move forward and progress. And now when time comes to it, it's almost like I was an idiot who wasn't.
Not really. The law actually recognizes that. Yeah. So it is contribution. Yes. It is contribution. It's just not financial. And the other spouse benefits from that contribution. Yeah. So in instances, I mean, there's a couple of cases where people are married out of community or property. I know I'm not answering your question, but we'll come to it. But they are married out of community or property and no accrual. And this man is a farmer and is excelling. But now the wife is a stay-at-home wife. Yeah. They have 3 kids. The house is running, and he's able to go and excel and get all this farming awards and stuff like those, because home is taken care of.
Yeah.
Later on, he decides, I'm going to divorce you. The kids are doing very well in life now. It's like, I'm divorcing you, and then because it's out of community property and there's no accrual, then you need to just go. So you can apply to court, and there is then the exception. There is that is now what I think I spoke about earlier. It is the court can order asset redistribution, that there was contribution and the other spouse did benefit from it. So you are then entitled to get some assets from there.
Because I think of the story Dirty, I talk about it all the time, Dirty John Betty or Dirty Betty John, something on Netflix. I talk about it, I've talked about it before, and even last time I didn't know the name. But if you say Dirty John on Netflix, it will pop up. And it's a true story. The lady's still in prison now. She's in her 70s. She helps the husband through medical school while she's having babies, while she's working, helping him go through medical school. He then decides, I don't want to be a doctor. Helps the husband through law school. He then becomes some kind of medical lawyer or something like that. So he becomes like a doctor and a lawyer, and his career booms. They start making serious money. She's got 4 kids, and they show images of her like helping him type assignments, as in she was there from the beginning. She was there from medical school. She's been his day one, supporting him, blah, blah, blah. And now because he was this big hotshot lawyer, he managed to take everything. And then the cherry on top for her is when he takes the children as well. And the children are very like, Mom, please don't act crazy. Dad's just in love with someone else. And this makes her, the children are on his side. Everyone's on his side. And she goes in and she shoots them. And she kills them. True story. This is a true story. It's basically
them being the
kills
couple.
the new couple. Yeah, so his new little young girlfriend. No, it was wife at this point. Because he gets married to some young receptionist girl at the office. Divorces her. Then he starts off by giving her an allowance. And then she calls and swears on the phone. So as a result, the allowance gets taken away from her because she's harassing them or something like that. But he uses many loopholes because he's a lawyer. He almost sets up traps for her that he knows she's going to fall into. And that allows him to keep taking away certain things that he owes her. So the first thing is it's not called an allowance what's it called? The money that
Maintenance.
Spousal maintenance. Yeah, spousal maintenance. So the first thing that she somehow disrupts the contract, that gets taken away from her. And then because of her little spells of getting really angry, the kids get taken away from her. And in the middle of the night, one night, she just gets up and she shoots both of them. She drives over to their house, shoots both of them, and she's in prison. She's in her 70s. She's really old. They're telling her story on Netflix, And I watched that and I was like, but I get it. He drove her there. He's the one that said, don't grow your career. I got you. I got us. She spent all her formative years. It shows her going through miscarriages and really struggling to have children. But he wanted kids. He wanted 4 kids and pushed her, to have 4 kids. So the story is so it paints a different picture, But sometimes I feel like, you even mentioned being in a patriarchal society. We can have this very men are trash view to this whole story. But there are women who work hard, who excel in their careers, and they have to start paying men. And I feel like this is more on the rise nowadays. Is that?
And I think we are not ready for it. I think yes, a lot of times we are not ready for it. I think we want a balance of sorts, but we also want that on our own terms. When it comes to that, a lot of us are just.
This conversation is gonna be an hour 30 minutes.
Given it looks like you're asking.
I don't know if you are still going to go back to answering her question. Yeah, because what I wanted to find out in terms of what you're asking is, are you asking in terms of, because you're saying a person is married in community. How can you protect yourself when you're married in community? Or do you mean, how can you protect yourself? Should you be in accrual or should you be in...
I mean, in every kind of marriage contracts that exists. How do I protect myself?
But the thing is,
how does each spouse protect themselves?
Yeah,
because this man-woman thing. How does each spouse protect themselves from third parties?
In community property, let's start there. I think when you asked your question about, you married in community or property, and then now people are coming in and it's very hard to protect a grown person from themselves. Let's just say that. you can protect your own stuff, but ultimately you can't protect somebody's things. So you can protect your share in their things, but you cannot now protect theirs. Yes. So it's very hard. So the law would not allow you to now be a custodian of your own things and a custodian of then somebody else's things. Yeah. So it's just we just need to make sure that what is ours we protect.
But what is his
It's up to him.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
up
so
to
take-
him.
So the good thing
Like
about in community is that your 50% is automatically
automatic,
protected.
yes.
So
Yeah.
whatever happens with his, unfortunately, you can't. Just
can't
like
protect
whatever
his.
happens to yours, he can't control.
Yeah. And
This
also
is out
in
of
community,
community or in community?
In
community. And you're hoping that there is a 50% to share, because somebody can
Exactly, to
squander
begin
that.
with.
There's
To
also that
begin
part
with,
that
yeah.
50% of zero is still zero,
Yeah.
or 50% of the minuses. So it's not always just that at least I know my 50% is coming. So you might now just see the assets, maybe
That
they are
is
2 million, but now there's liabilities that are 5 million.
Think about that.
Yes, so
And people know how to squander money
they do.
when they can see her.
Yeah. I mean, if there is men out there who are quitting their jobs so they don't pay maintenance. So you can imagine that if somebody hates you that much, they want to divorce you. If it means they are going to have a bonfire and start throwing the notes in there, they want to do it.
They'll do it, yeah.
Somebody's sitting at home. Somebody's watching this episode. They're engaged. Firstly, congratulations. Secondly, they're like, give me an answer. What is your recommendation for me?
It's hard for me to say this is my recommendation. I'll say come see us. Come see us.
Yes.
So my thing, every time I meet with a client, I say, what are we trying to achieve? Tell me what you're trying to achieve. As the attorney, I'll get you there. So I can't now just get in and
I'm
say,
just trying to
you
be
do this, you
happily
do that, and you
married.
do that.
I'm not trying to anticipate divorce, but in case it happens.
Yeah, how many are we bringing kids, and there's going
It's
to
unique.
be
Yeah.
so each is going to be unique. But I would say, I don't want to be the person who's anti something or pro something. Yeah, but it just you just need to come or go to another attorney, just say this is what's going on and this is what's going on, and just be frank. Open the cards. This is what I'm dealing with. This is what I'm dealing with. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that, and I'm worried about the other thing. This is what I'm trying to achieve, and those things also change. So you can still say, the person you are today. That's why it's very important when we draft the antenuptial contract to make sure that you're not drafting the antenuptial contract for the 24-year-old who's getting married now, because in 30 years you're going to be 54, and then we are using the same contract and it doesn't work out. So yes.
I just like that seeking counsel, seeking consultation. That's very important, because we often go by our knowledge or whatever we are drafting here. We are picking up, even from this conversation, someone can make a decision, but I like that you say everything will be treated with its own merit. Everyone's regime will be treated with its own merit.
That is
I like
true.
that.
Something I want to know is, particularly with a prenup, the way for me, I've come to the conclusion that for most situations, a prenuptial agreement is probably the best way to go, because I was having a conversation with a friend and telling her that ultimately it gives you the freedom to decide what to leave to your husband or what they can do for you. It's just comes with the unfortunate thing is in that it doesn't happen by default. So that 50% that they could have given you, which now that you actually also mentioned the fact that being married in community also comes with liabilities, which could leave you with 50% of a negative, right? It just further throws me in the side of a prenup. But I do have the question of, is there a way that people who are married in a prenuptial agreement, let's say it's not accrual, that they can give each other some kind of assurance that we're having this agreement, you and I, that, for example, we're purchasing a house. This is, if I go, I want this to go to you. Is there a way that under that prenuptial agreement that they can give themselves that assurance?
So this is out of community property and no accrual.
Yes.
It won't be in terms of the antenuptial contract.
Okay.
Yes, then it would be, I keep on going back to the wills and the trust. And also there's life covers that we can take, covering one spouse's life. That if something happens, then there's money that comes into, into the estate, either into the estate or directly to me. So there's a lot of ways to benefit each other that don't necessarily have to sit in the antenuptial contract.
Okay, so in other words, you're saying if that's your agreement, then you would have to trust that your partner has put it in the will.
Yeah, or let's not get married.
Okay, so which is where the trust thing comes in, because a trust you can know and check that you're a beneficiary.
Yes, that's true.
But with the will,
yes,
you'll never know.
You'll never know because a will, I can sign a will today and then I sign another one tomorrow.
Another one.
This one is not even, it's not worth anything.
But a trust I will know if it changes.
Trust you will know.
Man, that's good. I did.
So trust ikiona.
Trust ikiona.
But there are people who say, Guti,
you said something, yeah.
There are people who commonly say that a trust is not for everyone, because I know that there's a minimum amount. I don't know what it is. What is your advice in that regard? So let's say, for example, we have people in different people in different income levels. Which are the people who should be considering, or that you would advise based on what you see, like what is presented before you? Be like, okay, if you're here going upwards, I would advise a trust. When you're
you did
here,
mention costs.
Yes, the costs that are involved.
Yeah. So there isn't so much a minimum amount to have a trust, but sometimes it doesn't make sense to have a trust. So there is different kinds of trusts. So there will be what we call an inter-vivus trust. It is a living trust. So I'm alive, I'm drafting a trust, and I'm moving things into the trust as it is. And then there is also a testamentary trust. So the testamentary trust is the one that you draft in the will. So in the will, you say, when I pass away, I would like I would like a trust to be created, and this will house this and this and this and this and that. So it only kicks in, so you don't have to fund it while you are alive. So you can still just put it in the will. And then it will kick in when you pass away, and then you can decide that then it closes when the last kid is 25 or when the last kid is 35. You can still decide all those things. So a trust is still, especially if you have minors, so you want to make sure that there is a trust. It doesn't have to be a living trust, inter-vivus trust. It can be the testamentary trust.
No, what's the difference?
One is a will. The testamentary trust, you said, is a will.
The testamentary trust is in the will. You draft it already in the will, but it only kicks in when you pass away. So you don't have to fund it, unlike an inter-vivus trust. So that one, then you need to. But the nice thing about it is you can already start using it. You can already start throwing things into it. But now the one in the will, you need to pass away first. We need to pay all the other things that need to be paid before we start moving things in there. And we hope that there is enough to move in there.
I was about to say it could be there's nothing.
Yes.
And then with the other one, that's not that doesn't require a will. Yes. First of all, what I want to know is I'm kind of gathering that the big benefit with the trust as opposed to a will is that with the trust you can continue adding assets, like whatever you and your spouse decide, okay, we're buying this, how are we treating it? Are we adding it to so you don't need to worry about changing the whole thing. You're just adding assets, and we already know that we're the beneficiaries and our kids are already by default the beneficiaries, right? I'm gathering that that's a big benefit between the two. And then there was something else I wanted to ask. I'll remember.
You spoke something casually. Slight soft sentence. You said, "Oh, don't get married." What are your thoughts around that?
I'm a big advocate of marriage, but a good one, a secure one, and not these just going in to go see Harifita Gopili, because a marriage can make you or break you. So if you are not sure, maybe you can wait. Jolanga. Like Hari Joling. It's not this thing of putting age and say by 25 I need to be married. So a lot of them are returning now, after 10 years, 15 years, you coming back and then you're starting from scratch, because now the person you were with, there was not much building that was happening. So I am a big advocate of marriage, but let's not do this Jolanga. Yeah, let's not do that, and especially if we're going to bring kids into it. So sometimes we just burdening each other unnecessarily, knowing this is not forever. And then after this, now you starting a new thing. And so let's make sure that we are able to sit, be it with a financial advisor, with a financial planner, or with an attorney, and talk about everything.
A fully transparent.
Yeah, fully transparent one. And understand that life is seasonal. So what is happening today might not be happening tomorrow. So, as we're planning, let's plan for all the seasons. Let's not just plan for this one. Because a lot of times, even with the antenuptial contracts, we are, a lot of people say, I don't want one because I'm happy. We're not saying you're not going to be happy, but it's just the 40-year-old self, the 50-year-old self. Is she going to be happy with the choices that you made at 24 when you got married? You're like, I love this person so much. It's not even a measure of love. Like, I don't think a marriage is, we need to look at how you married to say this is a good marriage or not. So that doesn't have to do with anything. So people must just have information and decide. If you decide to marry in community or property, as long as you have information, you know it, then you go ahead and do it.
Going in with your eyes
wide open.
Yeah,
I love
and
that.
let's not be crying on the other end with kids, with things that we don't even,
So the weekend before you go take out mahari, is it advisable to go to the lawyer first and draw up your contracts? Because automatically you'll be in community. Before then, because we need to register this. We need to register it. And sometimes, there's glitches and, maybe there is, if for some or other reason, it gets rejected because we need to change maybe something. We're now already there. And it's too late. So if you can do, let's do it. Let's do it earlier. Before. Yes.
Ghana, you said that if someone, let's say, for example, people are married in community and then one of them is taking care of, let's say, sisters' siblings. When that person dies, does that burden now fall onto the living spouse?
Not automatically.
Not
automatically.
All right.
Yeah.
Even if you're taking care of parents?
Not automatically.
Okay.
I can't imagine passing away and then now forcing my partner.
Don't trust
like Beyonce, I'm taking my mom and then now he's going to get married to somebody else now with my mom. Not automatically, but people from the goodness of their own hearts, they will still maybe just send money knowing that my spouse used to take care of this, and then I will just
send. But a side chick likely to fall. Okay, what you were saying, now I understand it. What you're saying is it's likely to fall onto their half.
50%.
Yes.
Okay. Not that it's going to continue perpetually being your burden.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Yes. It's just if you want to be kind, then you can send in something, but you don't have to.
Okay. That makes sense.
I already asked this and I'm not sure. I don't think you answered where I said, what are some of the sticky stories that you've come across?
Oh. I think we spoke about that one with the bull where somebody came back
2 days later.
It gets very sticky. It really gets very sticky, and it's usually with lack of information. As one spouse would think they know, but then when they leave, and then another spouse would be information, what and so you're sitting there, more than more than the spouse knows, and they are signing, and so it really does get awkward sometimes.
You've got a duty to both spouses at that point.
Yes.
Or does it depend on who's your client?
Yeah, and who's paying you?
So you can have a situation where both of them are your spouses.
Or your clients.
Your clients.
Yeah, where both of them are
we see your mind.
No, thank you. No, so you can have a situation where, and usually even with divorces, just if you want to keep it clean and you the both of you can come in, but there we have to open everything and say this is what's going on, and you cannot now favor one over the other one. But if now one has their own attorney somewhere and then they're just coming in to say, my attorney has looked at this and this and that, I don't have a duty now to sit down and now explain things to you because you have your own representation and I'm representing this one. But if then I am representing the both of you, then I have a duty to both of you.
A quick one, which I think is very important, is there's a lot of people who sort of pull advice from social media. And I think even with medical stuff, right? And I don't know how much you would warn people not to do this, because I think we subconsciously don't realize that we're gathering things from other people's context. And I've realized just how different South African law differs from other countries.
Yeah.
And we will pick up something, and we don't realize that we picked it up from a video of someone who's from a completely different context saying, oh no, if you marry, the law says this. And I've realized that Westerners have a very bad habit of not really, and because they feel like where they're from is the world, right? They don't feel the need to say, oh, in this state or in America, this is what applies. What would be your comment on that in general?
Yeah. First of all, we don't even call them prenups. We call them antenuptial contracts. So the UK and the US, they call them the prenups. So you'll just find even with their language sometimes that that this one is not talking about what we deal with in this office.
Okay.
So it's not, and sometimes it can actually even be from South Africa, but because it's different cases. There's a different scenario that in one, then it's not going to apply to you. Yes, it happened there. Somebody, you have a friend who did this and did this and it worked out for them. But we have a habit of not, if you go to a shrink, they have questions that they ask you to get to where they want you to get to. Like the same thing with attorneys. So we know what to ask because we know. But if you're talking to a friend, whatever you are telling them, it's like, show me. No, man. Mang Liena had this situation and then this is how it happened. But I'm going to ask you the questions that are going to tell me that, oh, actually, this is not that situation. It is that situation. So it's very important to not think that everything is one size fits all.
And would you say a trust is for people who are at a certain tax bracket or income bracket? Or would you say should you consider it here or should you consider it at any?
I always just say by the time you need a trust, it's already too late. Yes.
Okay.
When you need it, because a trust is able to acquire assets. So a lot of people would want to grow things outside of a trust, and then after they like, now
I need a trust.
But now, if we are moving those things, that heavy load, remember the transfer cost, and there's a cost of moving stuff from there.
Unlike the trust being the one that buys
that is buying that. Yes, so you can go to a bank and actually get a bond. Get a bond
through the trust.
Through the trust.
Yes. So by the time you need a trust, you're probably late. But
that's a very good point.
Yes.
That's a very good point.
Sure. Lohu, parting shots.
There's a lot. I always say you don't know what you don't know. So we are there. There are people that, attorneys are not a different demographic anymore. You can come in ribulele or whatever you are comfortable with. So be educated, be informed, and ask questions. It's better to want to know than to just now. I had a quote the other day that said that moving in the wrong direction is actually worse than not moving. So a lot of us are moving, we are hustling, but the wrong direction, because you're worse off than somebody who's just standing still, because you still need to come here for you to
still point.
To the still point. So let's not move to the wrong direction.
I hear you. And sometimes you just want to move because other people are moving, but now you're moving in the wrong direction.
That move is costly.
So you still have to come back to still point.
You're coming here, and it will cost you time, it will cost you money.
Ooh, that was a lovely quote. Thank you so much. How can people get a hold of you? How can they find?
We have offices in Bryanston and we have offices in Brooklyn as well. So if you go to www.mahamatamnisiattorneys.co.za, that is where you will find us.
Mahamata Mnisi.
Yeah, it'll be on screen and in the description.
In the description box as well. Yeah. Lohu Mahamata, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing so much knowledge with us. Those that are already married, sorry. Those of us that are not, I hope you guys absorbed as much as you can. That was today's episode of the Conversation Capital. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. For now, though, goodbye and God bless.